Hi everyone. We're just going to be talking and I'll be giving a demonstration on how to construct carpet blocks. And these are just very valuable pieces to have around your shop. I use them all the time in regards to when I'm staining or when I'm prep sanding or repairing woodwork of any kind. It's number one reason that I use these is to protect your surfaces from getting damaged when you're working on them. You know, with the vibration of an orbital sander, or even the vigorous tugging back and forth with hand sanding sometimes, and any other applications, you know, applying edge tape to pieces and etc. And it's just a very good way that when you're working on both faces, you don't damage your piece at all, especially if it's in raw state, or even when you're working with a finish on it and you're just making slight repairs. So I'm going to show you how to construct these. This is a very simple project. The reason why I'm actually beginning with this, because I want to show you guys what I work with all the time. So it's worth doing these smaller projects for the longevity of the rest of your projects that you have on the go. So I'm just gonna give you an example. You know, when you put it this way, length doesn't matter. So we're going to construct different lengths. You know, depends on your needs. You know, do a small one like this one here in particular. This one's like only 12 inches. So, and this one here is 24. When I'm doing larger pieces like large panels or even a grand piano lid, you know, you're going to want to have a 3 foot or 4 foot. It just makes it a lot easier and quicker. Versus having like 6 or 7 of the smaller pieces for the same thing. So anyways, we'll get to it. So in construction of this, I always have my base slightly longer than my 2x4. This can be any material. This is plywood obviously, but we can make it out of MDF, particle board, what have you. It doesn't even matter, even chipboard. So long as it's about 3/4 inch thick, you want the thickness there. And this is a simple 2x4. You just cut it to length and you cut it just short of what you have on the base. And because this is a project that does not need to be perfect, you can actually speed things through. And for example, I want you to mark center on both ends of the 2x4. So you make it approximate, draw a line down there. Now, when I do this, I actually use my finger as a guide, and I put my finger up against the end of it. It can be your pinky, it can be your index, or even middle, whatever is comfortable for you. For what I'm doing, I'm actually putting both my index and my pinky finger on the side, and I'm gonna basically mark out approximately half, and just continue that line down using your finger. As I said, it doesn't need to be perfect. And so we do that to that. And this one here, you can either measure it, which is the 6 inches, and mark your 3. But say that it was 6.5, whatever. Then you just go and just keep it tight on one corner and go to, like, even, it doesn't really matter, up to the 7 mark. So half of 7 is 3.5, so you can go to 3.5 and mark your dot. So that's how simple it is. And you just go here, 3 round the nose. So it works every time. And so you can either do measure 1, measure 2, draw your line, or again, this doesn't need to be perfect. So I'm just gonna use my pinky on the outside and get about center like that, run it all the way around that. So for what we're doing, that's good enough. Okay, and trust me when I don't say good enough very often, but in what we're making, it doesn't need to be perfect. So the next step after this is we're going to drill some countersink screws on this end. So this is the face that I'm going to apply it to. So you want your on center lines on center, such as that. Okay, so it really makes it look pretty easy. Okay, so now we're just gonna grab a countersink bit. That's preferred because you don't want anything splitting. You don't want anything. The main reason why you want a countersink is so that your screws go slightly embedded into the plywood in this case. But especially when you're working with MDF pieces, if you don't, it will either not sink in at all because it's too dense of a material for the screw. So that you have to actually have a countersink there to go embed in beyond the surface of the plywood in this case, or especially the MDF that we're talking about. So I'm just going to drill a little one about 1 inch away from the end. And again on the other side. Now obviously if this was a longer piece, I'd be doing it each end and just evenly going across the whole entire length. In this case, since it's so small, we're just going to do 3. So I'll just eyeball 1 on center. And now you take your 2x4 and because this is slightly longer, you're going to want to use your fingers and just judge that even overhang of the base to the 2x4. And when you do that, just line up your lines so they're both on center of each other. And you do the same thing with this on the other end. Now you can just take a screw, hold that in place. One. And these are 1.5 inch screws. These will go, so they're going approximately that deep into the plywood. So it's just not a lot there. You don't really need a lot either. You're dealing with a lot of down pressure, not really angled or sideways pressure. So in the sense that, yeah, it should be, I forget my train of thought. Anyway, let's continue on and we'll just put the other one in place. I'll put the center one on there. So now we got basically the solid feature of the carpet block. And now we're going to cut some carpet for it. And I'll take away my drills for the time being. And you'll need an X-Acto. Now I just grabbed my carpet and I have an X-Acto blade. Obviously, you want to be safe with this. Just a quick little thing if you didn't know, DIYers. Now you have little segments on your blade right here. Just bring your blade to the segment and you'll see the metal part there. And just cover it with your hands, just you don't know where it's going to ricochet. And put down angled pressure and it snaps right off. Perfect every time. And it gives you a nice sharp tip at the end. Alright, so what we have to do here, we have to cut the measurement as for get enough carpet to wrap around the 2x4. And then we're simply going to fasten it low, bring it over, and make sure it's nice and tight, and then we're going to fasten the other side. So our measurement is 3.5 inches, so times 2, that's 7. And then we got 1.5 obviously for a 2x4. It doesn't really matter for the length of the carpet, as so long as it overhangs both ends. So, because this is your main spot. I usually just wrap it down just for appearance and comfort of grabbing and such. I'm not going to be pulling and pulling and pulling, and it could fray, whatever. But so that's why I usually come down pretty low. And so with that said, I will. I'm going to make them roughly around 7 inches. Okay, so there. And again, I only need so much, so I'm just going to mark a little mark here. Now, when you're doing their length, right now it's 11.5 inches. So I'm actually just going to bring it out to about 12. So there's a little bit of overhang on each end. And that way, just in case I bring a piece and I happen to be clumsy and I actually hit the end, you're going to be hitting carpet, not wood. Okay? So we've got 11.5 inches, so I'm going to bring this up. Now, if it has this little tag on here, you can keep that on. That's totally fine. So I'm just going to mark my length here. Okay. And the way that carpets are, and hopefully you'll have nice straight lines. This is all gridded, obviously, with the material of carpet. So it's pretty easy to keep a straight line, so long as your piece is cut parallel to those lines. And so these ones these are pretty parallel. And so I'm just going to run my straight, I just got this is a straight edge, a piece of metal. That's one of my stir sticks. In all honesty, you don't need anything fancy or whatnot. So you're just going to mark out your line. Stop that. And then you just follow your line across there. Okay, now I know exactly where to cut. So when cutting these, now you can use a piece of wood. Something a little thicker is easier to guide your blade against. You know, for someone like myself, I've been doing this for a very long time. So I'm just going to make sure I'm on top of wood here. And I'm just going to do a few, you just watch your fingers, make sure your fingers are beyond the blade. And you want to control your passes of the blade so nothing jolts into you or you're going to slip off and cut a finger or such something. Okay, I'm just going to do this one here as well. And make sure that you're just working on scrap, you don't give a crap about, right? Okay, so I'm going to let my carpet drop there. Okay, so let's see, just double check this. Okay, we're going to wrap around. Should be pretty good, something like that. Okay, so now the rest is pretty easy. I'll do it this way so you can see what I'm doing. And I'm going to just rest it on top. Now from what I had there before, I think I noticed it was up about 3/4 of an inch. So I'm just going to lay it nice and it looks nice and even and parallel. I'm overhanging and overhanging on either end. And so I'm just going to grab my screws here. Drill. Now with this here, if you're in a shop environment and you're just plowing these together, you know, you can throw glue in there and staple it. Okay, you can put these in here, you don't need to glue it obviously, but you can use the 1-inch staples and you can just go dots. In this case, and in most cases, I actually just use screws. These are 1.25 inches. And so it just doesn't go through all the way to the other side. You don't want to use anything bigger than 1.25 inches. So we're just going to go toward the end. You just want to make sure you control your screw so it doesn't go through your carpet. You want to make sure that it's nice and controlled. And just get it fairly close to the end. And one more. Okay. And then you're simply going to reverse it, carpet there. Now if you're doing a longer piece, I always start in the center and work my way out. Okay, so it's nice and evenly snug and tight and flat at the top portion of this. Okay, so that way you can have 6 of these across and they're all going to be the same height. And that's why I always use the same thickness of base, and I use 2x4 because it's always 3.5. So again, I'm going to pull it tight, grab a screw, start on my center. Okay, that's 1. Grab it nice and tight, pull it down. 2. One more on the other end. Oops. 3. It's that simple. It's really easy, really fast, and you can actually see. I'll just put this down here. And I've got these, as I see, these things can come underneath. These drills can be underneath of your workpiece, and all 3 of them. Doesn't matter where I work. It's really a very simple project, and you're going to find it very, very handy, very, very useful. So this is why I'm actually just bringing these few projects up that are small and really easy to do, because I use these all the time. Yeah, stay tuned for other projects, and I'm sure you're going to enjoy them. Cheers. Like and follow us on TikTok, Like and subscribe on YouTube. And follow us on LinkedIn, Facebook, Instagram, and X, formerly Twitter.